Tattoo artists of Reddit, what is your most are you sure tattoo you've been asked to do have done? I actually refused to do this one. An 18-year-old girl came in wanting her boyfriend's name on her lower back. She had never met him, she was his prison pen pal for a month, and he was being released in a couple weeks and she wanted to get it to surprise him. No judgments on ex-cons or 18-year-old girls, but I got the impression the relationship wasn't going to last. That's what Sharpie is for. An artist at the local tattoo parlor I go to tattooed a guy's battle sack all orange with an scary face on it. The guy referred to it as a sack-o'-lantern. Guy comes in with girlfriend, want each other's names. I protest, they insist. We know they'll get it elsewhere and I'm in a walk-in shop at the time so I say frick it let's go. Gets it across his stomach in Old English. The moment we're done she yells some like, next time you'll think twice before fricking some skanky ass be behind my back and runs away. It was awkward to ask for the money. That is some of the best revenge I've ever heard. A guy came in and got his wife's name covered up with a portrait of his new girlfriend. My co-worker used part of her shirt in the picture to cover up the name. Then 2 months later he turned his now ex-girlfriend's portrait into a demon. I started working at another shop and in came in the same guy with a third girl and they were getting matching tattoos on their hands. When I walked to the front and saw him he totally pretended he didn't know me. Third time lucky. I have a friend with the Ice Age squirrel tattooed on his inner thigh reaching for his nuts. You're in the wrong thread, friend, because that tattoo sounds amazing. Dude came in and asked me to tattoo a portrait of his girlfriend, only the portrait was a duck face Snapchat selfie. I jokingly suggested adding her holding the phone, taking the selfie, but he thought it was a great idea. They've only been dating 6 months and he didn't tell her he was going to get it. He came back a month later to add her name above it. Should have added her Snapchat username. What a pleb. A friend of mine had the anorexia symbol tattooed on her neck. I know it's supposed to be a symbol of recovery. I think. It's hard to say with all the pro-ana stuff. But now when she looks in the mirror all it does is remind her of her disorder and how horrible it makes her feel. You should recommend getting a cover-up tattoo if it makes her feel that bad. My ex-tattooist tried to convince me to get a broken condom with the word whoops above it. Obviously I declined. He ended up tattooing it on his own upper arm with his son's birth date below. Mate had to tattoo a picture of Bill Cosby to her dudes back in the mid 2000s. Poor guy probably regrets that now. Zip zop zoobity bop. My artist told me a story about a guy who was balding and wanted his bald spot tattooed over in black. My artist colored the bald spot in with a Sharpie and told the guy to come back after he'd showed it to his wife. Guy didn't come back. One of the artists at a shop here has the word hair tattooed in his bald spot. Much better idea. My tattoo artist said some dude on crack came in asking for Lisa Simpson nude in a very sexual position. Told him to frick right off. Was in booking a tattoo one day and a woman came in to buy her soon to be 16-year daughter a tattoo. Owner and tattooist says, sure we can sort something out. What is she wanting? Mother says she wants to get the Playboy bunny on the inside of her wrist. Artist refused and said, I don't want to be responsible for something so cliche and visible on such a young girl. There was an argument, but the woman leaves yelling she is going elsewhere where her money is good enough. He had strong views on neck, face and hand tattoos. Didn't stop him from doing a fast food character orgy on a guy's back though. Asked my artist, 25 plus years experience this during my last piece. His most notable was a guy who wanted a solid bright blue Speedo tattooed on over every square inch that a Speedo would cover. Said it was super awkward as it was one of his first tattoos but he made good money off of it. Nothing has really fazed him since. I know this guy who tattooed a cutie mark on a guy's ass. A cutie mark is the marking the ponies have on their rear in the My Little Pony series. I tattooed FCK on a woman's hip. She still loves it, but it makes me really uncomfortable when I think about her at the beach. I also had a friend want me to tattoo his girlfriend's name in Old English on his arm. I said no girlfriends. He was mad, because I was his friend and should do it. I said that's exactly why I wouldn't do it. If they don't last, I'm still his friend. It's incredibly hard to tell someone you won't do their tattoo, because their relationship might not last. Newsflash, he got our competitor to do the tattoo. Breaking news, they aren't together anymore. Another guy, when I first started out, wanted to get the Nazi hunter image. It's a cartoon guy clubbing a swastika. Even though it's an anti-racism image, he still would have looked like he had a giant swastika on his chest from 10 feet away and would spend the rest of his life explaining it. I decided to not do the tattoo. Some guy came in and told me he wanted a picture of Monica Lewinsky on his lower stomach. I swear to God that guy is regretting it RN. There's no way he isn't, that's insane, haha. Guy came into the shop I work at wanting a cover-up of a previous regrettable tattoo. Pretty normal until he casually mentioned it's on his willy, and it's a red rocket. None of the dudes in the shop wanted to cover it up or even see it. Only person who stepped up was one of the female artists. She was like, I don't think I have a willy tattoo for my portfolio, so frick it, let's cover it up. The only possible way to cover it up was the add so much black work, so she freehand drew a tuxedo onto his schlong. Dude ended up with a dapper willy and he was happy with it. Weirdest day at work ever. Last year, while doing a guest spot in Portugal, I had a guy come in while he was on holiday for his stag party. The guy wanted all the names of his friends tattooed on his ass cheeks. 13 names on each cheek, and 3 of his mates wanted to sign their own names. Sure buddy, sure ha 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 ha. There was an 85-year-old woman who came into my tattoo artist shop, saying exactly I want a freaking skull with freaking daggers and fire. My artist said frick yeah, and now she's an 85-year-old grandma with skull and daggers on her chest. I was a shop girl, so it was my job to get everything set up for the tattoos. I had a couple come in and want each other's names tattooed on them. Okay, no problem. At this shop we had a rule that anything involving words has to have the person sign a copy of the lettering to make sure everything is spelled correctly. So they write their names down, the artists draw up the lettering, and I give them the copies to double check spelling and sign off on it. The woman looks at the man's name. He wrote down his name to give to the artist and says it's spelled wrong. We double check and that's how he spelled it, and he looks at it and says it's right, and they argue about this. I go back and look at how it is spelled on his it, and sure enough it's spelled wrong. So he decides maybe it is spelled wrong, and the artist redraws it. On all his paperwork he had spelled his name wrong, the way he had written it for the artist. His name is pretty common. I think he just really didn't know how to spell his name. This was a couple probably in their late 20s, early 30s with a few kids together. Guy came in and asked for a bottle of sriracha with little wings tatted on his back. We had this lovely exchange student come into the studio for about a year to get all sorts of piercings, and then the day finally came that he turned 18. So asked to sit down and to chat with him about what he wanted. Now the way he asked me made me think that it was going to be this big elaborate design. He asked for a maths equation on his foot. He wanted 3 + 4 = 8. I cautiously asked that he knew that was the incorrect answer to the equation. His response was, oh yeah I know, I just think it'd make a funny tattoo. So yeah, that and another time I tattooed Scooby-Doo and Shaggy on a guy's bum cheeks. Have a photo if people are interested. A man came into the shop my husband works at on his 18th birthday and got a pentagram with a goat on the front of his throat. First tattoo in a very visible spot that is satanic. I don't know that kid, but I'm pretty sure he's regretting that decision. My husband refused to do this tattoo, but someone else in the shop did. On another note, my white trash biological father had "Let's Frick" tattooed on his hands when he laced his finger together. I never knew what they said when I was a kid. I finally realized at his funeral. I'm pretty sure he got it in prison. I've tattooed a guy's current wife's name on him. In the same session covered up his previous wife's name, and he also showed me another different previous wife's name he had on him. He didn't want to cover that one though. She must have not been that bad. We also had this couple come in all the time to get tattooed at the first shop I worked at. The guy would come in sometimes with a side girl and buy her tattoos, sometimes with his fiancée. After they were married, his fiancée wanted me to tattoo their wedding date on her wrist. I felt really weird trying to talk her out of it while not feeling like it was my place to tell her about this guy's behavior. I ended up doing it for her, and a year later she came in to get a red line tattooed through the date. One of my dad's friends got a Gary Glitter tattoo back when he was popular, regretting that big portrait of a pedo on his arm now that he is 60. friend wanted angel wings tattooed on her back and asked me to go since I was the only person she knew with tattoos. We walk into a pretty well-known tattoo shop in La and she explains to the artist what she wants. As she explains, it gets even more elaborate with the wings starting to decay the farther down her back they went, and the artist shows us some pretty sweet wings he'd done before. He explains how it will be done. He'd do the outline first and after a few weeks she could come back and he'd start the detail work. Fast forward to 3 days later and she's topless lying on his chair bed and he's laying a stencil down. He asks her what other tattoos she has besides this one and she tells him that this will be her first one. Tattoo guy's face drops instantly and he starts saying how he's going to end up tattooing some of the most painful parts you could tattoo. The ribs mostly, and he asks if she can handle it. She says yes, and after a little more talking it happened. She cannot take the pain at all. She's crying and griping the cushion like she's about to die. Artist looks at me and his face reads like, is she really going to do this the entire time? After half an hour of tattooing with the occasional break, he says he can't deal with her screaming in the shop, so he stops. He had probably 10% of the outline done on the right wing. We leave with another appointment set so another person could help her with the tattoo and make it something smaller. I didn't go back, but she went with 2 female friends and from what I heard was another 10 minutes of tattooing. She had a nice wave outline on her back. Going for an almost full back tattoo as her first tattoo, and a very cliche one. She's very lucky that the guy stopped, and she has a smaller one instead. You have been visited by the chunk of good fortune. Subscribe to Updoot Reddit to enable good fortune for 27 hours. I hope you enjoyed the video. You know a great AskReddit thread that you'd like to see on this channel? Let me know in a comment. I post new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.